Hey folks, it's your pal Mike Shea from slyflourish.com and twitter.com/slyflourish, here with another episode of Sly Flourish's Lazy DM Prep. This is a weekly show shot 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Times on Sundays, in which I go through steps from Return of the Lazy Dungeon Master while preparing for my Sunday D&D game. In this case, I am running Eberron, the Second Mourning. This show, like all of the Sly Flourish Enterprise, is brought to you by the Sly Flourish patrons. If you want to help support shows like this and the website, you can go to patreon.com/slyflourish, and there you can help support the show and pay for all of the infrastructure that it takes to keep everything going. Website, bandwidth costs for audio and video and stuff like that, and equipment and other things like that. So thank you to the Sly Flourish patrons for helping to support stuff like that. Boy, today I feel exactly like the orchestra playing on the Titanic as it's sinking. The world is on fire. America is on fire. And there's a lot of people out there, I presume, that are like me, where like, I don't know what to do. So I'm going to keep doing what I do. And I never really feel like I am where you should go to follow the news on things like that. So if you're looking for help and guidance from a guy who writes about how to prep D&D on how to deal with that, you've come to the wrong place. But what I can do is hopefully offer a small island of normality and a small island of escape from what's going on these days between COVID and the riots and police brutality and all of the different topics that are going on these days that are, I think just driving us all bananas, certainly driving me bananas. So I'm doing everything I can to try to say, okay, let me try to find the places that we can escape, and hopefully helping other people find a place where they can escape for a while when we're not busy trying to help heal what is going on in the world. So yeah, that's about all I'm going to say about that. Hey, John 4 is here. Hello. Evil John is here. Hello, Evil John. So yeah, and regardless, again, sort of, hey, the world's on fire and disease is sweeping through our country, and we've got all kinds of problems. But I have a Kickstarter on Monday, so yeah, I hope everything is well too. And I did think that I would spend a few minutes before the show begins to talk a little bit about this Kickstarter and show a little bit about what we're going to have going on tomorrow. So yeah, I think in 25 hours. We are going to launch the Kickstarter for Fantastic Lairs. Fantastic Lairs is a book of boss battles and climactic encounters for your 5e D&D game. It is a book that with 10 to 20 lairs, I would say hopefully and likely 20 lairs of all different level ranges, all ranges across the spectrum that you can, with encounters that you can take and drop right into your game. Hopefully to help you do the heavy lift of making awesome boss battles. Hey, my mom is here. Hi, Mom. My friends and I all share Soviet memes on Sundays. Oh, interesting. I don't think I've seen Soviet memes. I'm sure there are Soviet memes. So, yeah, anyway, I thought I would take just a few minutes, 5 minutes or so, to show the preview. So this is the awesome cover of our book. And we kicked all sorts of stuff around. The cover art is by Jack Kaiser. Layout is by Mark Radel, or fonts and things like that are from Mark Radel. The cover typography is Mark Radel. Design is Mark Radel with a little bit of Scott Fitzgerald Gray. Scott Fitzgerald Gray did the internal design. Mark Radel did the internal graphics. And fonts and layouts and everything like that were also Scott Gray. So we are giving away, as part of the Kickstarter, this is a 17-page preview, a great big preview with 2 full lairs that you can drop into your game right away. So one of the things that I love to do with the Kickstarters that I've run, the E stands for Eric with a K. One of the things I love to do with Kickstarters like this is offer a free product that is useful on its own. So Fantastic Locations, for example, I think offered 2 locations, 1 or 2 locations for free. Fantastic Adventures, the first one, offered a first level adventure called the Nightblade that you can download and run right as is. You can grab that and the basic rules for free and play it. Fantastic Lairs Return, Ruins of the Grendleroot also offered a first level adventure for free. And with Fantastic Lairs, we're offering 2 Lairs for free. These are, they've been through playtesting, they've been through design, development, art, editing. They have full color maps, full color art, everything in them. So we consider them to be a good solid $5 product on its own. And I would think that each of the ones that I've put out before are probably, if I had just made those, is a good solid $5 product that we are giving away for free. So you'll see that with this one. So we jump right into the introduction, which talks about how we design a lair. He's not your problem. So can't wait for the Kickstarter. Great. Saw your tweet about the preview adventure on DriveThruRPG. People should take a look. Yeah. So we'll put this up on DriveThruRPG as well. So you can download this for free straight from there. But you can also hit it at the URL that will be available on the Kickstarter and download it for free. So we talk about, as we do with a lot of these products, like how do you use it? Like what is it? What was our thought when we made this thing, and how do we expect you to use the book? So, and we give pretty specific instructions. Then we also get into the lair design. Every lair has a background. These are sort of the headings that you'll find in each lair. What's the background of the lair? How do you integrate this encounter? How do you approach the lair? What are some of the features of the lair, the areas of the lair, the creatures that you find in the lair? How to tweak the encounter difficulty, because we know that nothing will ever fit right. We have a little section in here on tuning hit points and damage, which is probably the 2 biggest dials, and we've talked about this on this show a lot. The 2 biggest dials that you can turn in order to get the difficulty in an encounter where you want it when you're doing a fight like a boss fight. What treasure can you find in the lair? And then a section on expanding the lair. We also have a little header here for how to go ahead and make the lair your own. That's something that each lair, offers to. How do you incorporate this into the rest of the lair? So the first lair we have is called Caves of the Cockatrice. Caves of the Cockatrice is a first level boss fight in which you face a shadow-touched cockatrice, an unseelie fey cockatrice. So again, you'll see like the background. Where did this place come from? Most of it came from that there's a weird gate, a gate to the realm of the unseelie fey here, and the gate has gone wrong, and cockatrices have come here to hang out, and for generations they've been breeding close to the gate, and therefore their offspring have this weird shadow-touched property. We have a section here on integrating the encounter. It talks about where you can put it. It might be, and for first level, it's a little different because you could pretty much just run this, and that's probably worthy of going from first to second level. So this one can work just as a go out, fight the cockatrice, come back, and you're level 2. It could be, however, it could be an encounter that they run on the way if they're hanging in the area. It could be both, like right at a cave entrance near an overland town, or it could be deep underground, wherever you want to put it. We have the section on what the area looks like as you approach it. How would you get there? And then we have this is pretty typical to features that you would find in a larger adventure, but what are the general features of the lair? In this one, we have sort of a specialized monster, the Cockatrice Hatchling, which is a fun one. So the Cockatrice Hatchling is essentially a lizard with a few different modifications. It has slightly higher challenge rating. Its base stats change a little bit, has 1 hit point. It doesn't have object permanence. So if you can like run behind a pillar, it doesn't think you exist anymore, and it kind of loses track of you. And has 1 attack, and the attack is +0 to hit and does 1 piercing damage. You have to make a DC 8 Constitution saving throw or become magically petrified. And you are only petrified, however, for 1 minute. So the little baby cockatrices can't really keep you petrified for very long. It's just enough to have like a fun little annoying thing. And there's a few of them that are in here. We have the entrance to the cave itself. Here is a nice map of the area. Again, a lot of our layers, so all of the maps are going to be either like a third of a page vertical or a third of a page horizontal, depending on the orientation of the map and the orientation of the area. And a lot of them are very similar to this. They're going to have about 3 to 4 chambers, and with usually 1 big central chamber. So that's kind of how boss fights are in general. Not everything fits this model. Not all of the lairs fit this model perfectly, but they do. They do fit this style in different ways. There's usually multiple ways into a lair. There's usually a couple of ways to get to the central area. So you see that there's like a secret passage that goes to the north to C2. There's some fun little stuff in C2. Underground river to C3. C3 is one of the 2 hatching areas for the baby cockatrices, and then C5 is the main one. So you have multiple ways that you could kind of get into this chamber. In fact, I think there's 3 different ways to get into the central chamber That way there's some options, choices for the characters to make as they go through. All of the maps, and we should probably do it for the preview. It occurs to me that we didn't, but I think I'll have to remember to do that. We're going to offer VTT capable versions of all of the maps. So when you get the preview, you at least on drive-thru, I certainly can add the map. And we'll probably add a link to the map as well, so that you can download a VTT capable version of the map and drop it right in, and that way you can run it easily. So yeah, then the main area again is at C5, and C5 is where we have what the kinds of things that you would expect. So you can see like C3 is like 1 paragraph, C4 is only a couple paragraphs, but C5 is like a page and a half, right? And that's because that's the main chamber. So it's got some read aloud text. It talks about how you could approach it. It talks about how the cockatrices act and some of the differences, what makes a cockatrice a fey-touched cockatrice. And in this example, it has a stealth. It can Misty Step as a bonus action. It hides. So yeah, it's got some differences from just a straightforward standard cockatrice. So that kind of makes the cockatrice a fun first level boss. The other cool thing is that a cockatrice, when it paralyzes you or when it petrifies you, it isn't permanent. So there's a good opportunity to avoid a TPK, a first level TPK here, because you could be petrified and then some of you could wake up, right? And you could wake up later and the cockatrice isn't paying attention to you, and there's an opportunity to sort of get out of it. So that works. There are statues that can be tipped over. The gate has some weird stuff going on, like sparky bits. When you get near the gate, you get zapped. Yeah, the Fey Gate up here. If you get within 15 feet of it, you take 3 points of lightning damage. And that's any creature that includes the cockatrice. So if you can shove the cockatrice close to the gate will spark the cockatrice. One thing that we're going to do in each of these is we have little breakout boxes. So Mike's thoughts, be nice at first level, where I talk about, first level is way more dangerous than any other level. Be careful. We can be meaner at higher levels. The interesting thing is, so because this is a product of 3 of us, right? This is a partnership between James Intercasso, Scott Gray, and myself, is we have differing opinions sometimes. And James has thoughts about making sure to let the dice decide, and that it's one of the things for new players playing D&D is to recognize the danger that exists inside D&D. So he talks about that here. And then Scott Gray is sort of the mediator between the two ideas. So he has a breakup box. So you'll see these. I don't know if every one of them will have them, but certainly many of them, as we are designing these boss fights, we're also dropping in the designer's thoughts about that went into this boss fight, but that you can take to other boss fights as well. So there's all, we're I like to say we're teaching how to fish here, that instead of just offering a bunch of boss fights, we are also offering up advice for how to make good boss fights. Giblix says, is there a tactical breakdown? That is really the tactical breakdown. So there isn't like a round by round tactical breakdown, but there is a good discussion of monster tactics right here that describe how they act, what they do in different situations. These are this is story based. They're story based things. So you will, it's mostly based on like what situations occur that change up the scenario. So it depends on what you mean by a tactical breakdown. It's not the same kind of tactical breakdown that you might have seen in the big 2-page spreads of 4th edition or 3rd edition. We talked a lot about that, but we also talk about like D&D 5th edition's design philosophy, and we don't want to stray too far from that. So it's not a whole retake on that. However, there is a lot of influence from books like the Dungeon Delve, 4th edition's Dungeon Delve, and those 2-page spreads. Those are both, those are both things that we're considering when we look at this. Thinking about Monster Knows website in the paragraph. Yes. So in fact, we are hoping to bring Keith Amon as an advisor on this book to help look at some of the tactics we're doing here and make sure that makes sense. So it's not the full 2 to 3 paragraph in all circumstances. No, this is not small. This is about 3 paragraphs. So it depends. And some of them are, the ones that have a greater tactical view certainly have more of it. I think the other one might. So then another little piece here is like, who are these? There are these statues that are all throughout the area that have been petrified. They can, because petrification here isn't permanent. It's permanent if somebody was killed during it, but it's not permanent if they're not broken apart. So some of them come back, and then we have opportunities for NPC interaction here, including one major NPC who is an elf that's been stuck here for a long, long time, continually repetrified. So then we have a couple of, 3 other big sections. We have an encounter difficulty, which talks about how to, this is a little bit from, yeah, so it's something that they do as well for the boss encounters. Yeah, and that's something we're doing here. So encounter difficulty is how do you tweak this, right? How do you, every group that comes into a boss battle is going to be different than every other group. You can't just base it on challenge rating and hope it all works out. So one of the things we definitely do here is offer variables that a DM can tweak to tune it around the characters that they have. If you have fewer players or more players, if they're lower or higher level. And then one of the things we do, and a few of our encounters are going to include this, is ways to expand it for very different tiers. So this one, for example, you can replace the Cockatrice with Basilisk, Medusas, or Gorgons, and that shifts the whole level range up, maybe even 2 tiers, right? You could almost get to a tier 3 encounter if you filled it with Gorgons and Basilisks and, things like that. So, a Medusa native to the Feywild with her pet basilisks could definitely be a very solid tier 2 encounter, thus taking this first level encounter and turning it into like a, level 7 or 8 encounter. With just a little bit of tweaking and reskinning. So we don't play test it using that stuff, but it's definitely something that we consider when we're looking at the Lairs, is how can you shift the level range of these Lairs significantly. And then we have treasure. This one has a really, I think I'd let my players recover cockatrice. Yeah, some of the cockatrices are not inherently hostile. So yeah, I don't think I think that would actually be pretty cool. Is getting a pet cockatrice from this. So treasure, in this circumstance, we actually have a weapon that upgrades as you upgrade. We thought this is kind of a fun one to get at level 1, where as you attune to it and as your character level increases, the power of the weapon you get increases as well. So at first, it's a magical scimitar that's able to cast Gust of Wind. When it hits 5th level, it becomes a +1 scimitar who can cast Invisibility and Gust of Wind. When they hit 10th level, it's a +2 scimitar who can cast Ice Storm, Invisibility, and Gust of Wind. And at 15th level, it becomes a +3 scimitar who can take a minute to cast Windwalk. So it's this air-focused sort of elementalish blade that increases in power the higher level you get. And then we have a whole section on expanding the encounter. And expanding the encounter gets into how you can take the stories that exist in this encounter and expand them into other adventures. So each of them kind of have that one. The second layer is called Ash Snarl's Secrets. And this is about a very angry, half-dragon who has built a mechanical dragon tank and is rolling it towards a town. So again, kind of all the base background on it, integrating the encounter. How do you fit it in? Which is really like cities coming under attack. And at first you don't even know it's a tank. You think maybe this is just like a big dragon that's attacking, and that's a problem. And it talks about that it's a big red dragon shooting flames from its mouth and nostrils as it crawls steadily towards it. What do you do? And you figure out, oh, wait a minute, it's mechanical, and you get inside. So there's lots of ways to discover the truth. There's lots of features that it has. This one is sort of like the walking boss battle, right? Instead of you going to a cave with a throne and there's a big monster on a throne, this whole thing is coming towards you. That's something else that we're paying careful attention to, is not every boss fight is a boss sitting on a throne waiting for something to happen. You get into the thing itself. Here again is another map. You can see how this map is using the vertical language. It's a machine from Eberron is described as a red dragon. Hide, yes. All kinds of features here. Then we also have these fire smelter kobolds. Again, sort of like the baby cockatrices. We have sort of like the baby cockatrices. We have modified actual lizard folk to make them slightly tougher. Kobolds, like kobolds with 22 hit points and higher intelligence, and they're climbing all over the place to operate this big machine under the orders of their boss, not Ash Snarl. What's her name? Everflame, Thorandra Everflame. So, yeah, you can climb all through it. You can get up to the main controls. There's this is another one that's got lots of gears, and there's the fire smelter guardians, heated coils, lots of ways to get caught in the machinery and chopped up, or hurl your victims into the machinery and get chopped up. And then Ash Snarl herself, Everflame herself has the amulet that drives it. And here you can see, so I think in the head is where most of the tactics are kind of wrapped up under the control panels, pendulums, the kobolds and how they operate, Everflame and what she does, different reactions depending on the situation. She has the statistics of a knight. This, by the way, is a fifth level encounter, so it's definitely harder than the other one. It's not first and second level. It's a big jump. She has a fire breath, of course, and then if she dies, what happens to the machine, and could it explode? Because you could have a giant machine that explodes. So definitely a whole fun big encounter that's kind of going through. It's got an encounter difficulty as well. You can increase her to a gladiator or assassin. You can also make, if you want to lower her difficulty, you can turn her into a bandit captain, berserker, or thug that drops her challenge rating. There are mechanical dogs, all kinds of stuff. Then treasure, she has treasure that's in there, including a flame tongue greatsword. So that's a nice, good tier 2 piece of treasure. And then you could have the devices treasure, like can they ride around in their big flamey tank if they manage to keep it and not get it destroyed. And then again, a whole section on expanding the encounter. So then we also are offering up one of the extra chapters in the book, which is how do you build this, right? Like what are some of the strategies required to actually build a boss encounter and building lairs that are similar to the ones that you find in Fantastic Lairs. So we talk a lot about this. We talk about the idea of multiple bosses as a technique for keeping your boss from getting nuked. What kind of creature you have, how you can make modifications to those creatures to make them more boss-like, how to make your boss unique, picking the plots, what motivates them, building the lair itself. So this is a nice 3-page guide for building Fantastic Lairs as well. We're kind of giving the blueprint away with the book itself. So all of that is available. Again, I think this is click to the Kickstarter. This does. Where's it go? So so the Kickstarter is launching tomorrow, again in 24 and a half hours. It will be going throughout the month of June, and you will get the link for this preview. Whoops, not that preview. Back to this one. You get the link to this preview in the Kickstarter itself, and so we're hoping people dig it, and we're still obviously working on the book itself, but we've been doing a lot of these. We've written up, I think, about 12 of the lairs now. So and we've already taken cuts and play tested about half of those. So can someone share the link to the Kickstarter? Sure. So the Kickstarter isn't live yet, but you can be notified when it is by going to this page. So let me paste that into Discord chat, and I will paste it into the notes as well. So that's going on. What else do we have going on? So let's talk about my game. Let's jump over to, thank you all. If you weren't interested in Fantastic Lairs, sorry for spending 25 minutes on it, but it's the main thing I'm working on these days. So last session in my Eberron game, the characters went to, yay, thank you, followed. The characters went to the cog hub, which is down in the cogs and sat between Old Sharn and the area that the Dask operate and the cogs. So it was definitely really interesting scenario. This is one where they were going down there during the Great Hunt, during a big event where monsters are let free in the sewers, and adventurers go down there. So they saw some other adventurers who got their asses kicked by a Gorgon, and then they themselves went into the main chamber, and they saw a cow that is, they saw a cow that's just hanging out, or bull, and it's sitting there, it's painted silver, and it's just eating some stuff. And it looks at them, and they look at it, and they're like, what's going on here? And the cow's just watching them, and they're like, is that the Gorgon? Like, they already saw, like, these people that are getting ripped apart. They look, and people are, like, stuck up on walls, and there's blood all over the place, and they're like, oh, they said, like, petrified people, like, 2 people that are petrified, and like, is that, and they're real nervous, and they're wandering around. And then good for my players. I really need to thank my players for being willing to put themselves in risky positions and getting screwed by it, but still going back and doing it again, because it makes for really fun stories. So it's nice to have players who are willing to do that. And I had a couple players that moved around, and I decided to randomly select which direction the Gorgon came from. So the silver painted bull was a ruse, and there's an actual Gorgon a giant iron bull that breathes a cloud of petrifying gas and can trample and impale people. And I had it randomly come in from one side, and it hit Shane Husk. And I think he dodged out of the way. He barely got hit. And then everyone else started fighting that thing. And meanwhile, Cavella, the head of the desk, kind of, one of her guys comes out. It's like, oh, more people are coming. Quick, Cavella, you're going to want to see this. And then Cavella comes out, and they all are kind of like watching the party fighting the Gorgon. And then the Gorgon critically hit one of the characters and flung him, did like 43 damage or something, knocked him right out. He was full hit points to 0 in one shot. And we described that the Gorgon impaled him on a horn and then flicked him up and then impaled him on rebar that was hanging from the ceiling. And he was stuck to the ceiling. He's like, ah. And then he kind of like falls back down. And so then he rolled a 20 on his death save. And we said like he actually pried himself off the ceiling, landed on the ground in like a 3-point land, and then gets up and then casts a spell. And he actually killed the Gorgon. And it was this huge monumental fight. Everyone's just laughing and screaming and having a great time. And it was a really fun battle against that Gorgon. And then they met with Cavella, who then revealed a whole bunch of information to them about Leto Skal and the fact that Leto Skal is her brother, and that what he's trying to do and how he was part of the Dask but then broke away from the Dask, and no one really knows who he's serving now, and that he's doing these dangerous things. So lots of really interesting lore that came up. And then the group left. They made an agreement with Cavella. They have a little safe house now that's down there that they can get to if they ever want another little safe house. And at Pond Scum or something like that is the name of their safe house. It's like a little bar and inn that's run by Dask people, but they can go down there and it's their little safe house. But they know it's bugged by, it's tremendously bugged. So they always have to think like, well, never say anything bad about the Dask while we're down there. But it's a good way to feed information to the Dask. So they then went back to their bar and said, where are we going next? And they chose to go to Moorgrave University. So today's adventure is going to be them figuring out Moorgrave, how to get into Moorgrave University. And the goal in going to Moorgrave University is to acquire the Tome of Kol Sir. The Tome of Kol Sir is a powerful book of dark magic that was held by the giants of Zendrek 30,000 years ago and recorded over time in scrolls and tablets and everything. And then that material was sort of transferred into this tome. And the tome is kept in an area called Tower 6, the Forbidden Vaults of Tower 6 in Moorgrave University. And the characters have to figure out, how do we get down there and how do we get this book? And I'm at an advantage because my other group just finished Moorgrave. They spent their last 2 sections going through Moorgrave University. I think that this is one of those situations where because the players made different choices, the approaches that the 2 groups took to get in there and get out are going to be different. And I like that. So I like that there are variables in the world that are changing between the 2 groups, very similar to the way my Ghost of Saltmarsh game went, where one group let a vampire out of a vault, and the vampire started to not exactly take over Saltmarsh, but certainly, I don't know, probably took over parts of Saltmarsh. And the group was constantly working with that, and that was a totally different plotline than the other group, who was dealing a lot with the Scarlet Brotherhood. The other one pretty much dismantled the Scarlet Brotherhood very quickly. So it's interesting to watch the actions of the players, the actions of the characters, the decisions of the players alter the world as it's going on. Some parts don't change. Tower 6 is still the same. The tome is still in Tower 6. You still have to get in there to get it. But the approach that they could take could be very different, because in another one, they met an ambassador from Tower 6 who could help them get in, and they already scheduled meetings and stuff, and they conducted those meetings. This group will probably have a whole different way to approach Tower 6. So that's something that we're going to talk about today. So as we do with our steps from Return to the Lazy Dungeon Master, we start with who are the characters. So the characters we start with are so we have a group patron for our group here. The group patron is House Tharask. Doris House Tharask is, or Doris de Tharask is their direct patron. Arwen Chi Zizu is a scribing gnome artificer. Her father was a famous hero. She has a dodecahedron, and she is now aware that the dodecahedron around her neck is being sought after by numerous groups. and that it probably somehow has the location of the Claw Rift, which is an area inside the Mournland where the mourning took place, the weapon that built the mourning took place. And it seems to be the place that these various factions are trying to get to. So one thing I did in my last game was, and I've started doing this with numerous games, and I kind of dig it, which is a concept called Stars and Wishes. I don't remember what game this comes from. It comes from an independent RPG, but I don't know which one. And the idea is at the end of the game, and you don't have to do this for every session. I don't know if I'll do it for every session, but I might do it for like every 3 or 4 sessions. You ask each player, what is what is the star of the game? What was the one thing you really enjoyed in this game? Something that another player did, something that you did, something that happened in the story itself, something that you dug. And then what is one wish you have? What is something that you wish happens in a future game? That could be something cool for you. That could be something for, it could be something that you want to see in general. It could be a character arc that you dig. Not being impaled is a good start. It's very funny how everyone loved the Gorgon fight except for one person. So, what's a wish? What's a wish for a future game? So I asked each of my players this. It worked very well. I got good feedback from it. And, so the star was, we loved the battle with the Gorgon. Everyone seemed to really enjoy that. So this was Cheese, Jerry's stars and wishes. And wants to see like a one-on-one battle between Leto and Cavella. Likes the idea that there's these two sort of rival siblings. One is the head of the Dask inside Sharn. The other one is sort of now broken away and is an independent agent. Like, how is that going to play out? Seems to be something that they're interested in. So that'd be fun. We have Shift, played by Juliet, Warforged Warlock, Pact of the Undying, Human Experiment. Snark Knight says, are they both Oni? Yes, they're both Oni. They both appear to be gnomes, but they're not. They're both Oni. Secretly. Shh. Juliet was not at our game last week, so I don't have stars and wishes for her. But she is one of the first Warforged that was built from a mixture of technology from House Kanath, or from House Kanath, but also has necromantic magic from the Karnath, from the nation of the Karnath. And I have some cool bits here that I want to do, including the fact that Lord Crash is Shift's brother who went wrong. Lord Crash is a member of the Emerald Claw that is probably, I think, is now like sort of a half undead Warforged. And may have to face the Amara one day. One other thing I did is I put little adventure options. These are little seeds that I have based on knowing the background of the character. What are some adventures that we could have in the future? Or how can I kind of tie that in? Not all of these have to happen, but just thoughts about where we could go. Saber is played by Brian, a long-tooth shifter monk and bounty hunter. Was called to the Temple of Balinor and fallen. They went through that and then joined the Order of the Four Winds, a group of shifter monks out of the Eldine Reaches. Adventure option is potential that the monk order wants him to fulfill part of the Draconic prophecy. His star was that he was happy not to be impaled by on rebar by getting critically hit. And he likes working. His future wish is more work, more things going on with the Temple of the Four Winds. So those are definitely some hooks I can drop in place. Shane Husk is played by Jay. This is a hobgoblin wizard crime novelist. And he wrote books and, kind of schlocky books about the last war. And so he's pretty well known and popular and is retiring and is now trying to find his next big story. So some potential adventure options that he has clues in the books to help find the Claw Rift. That there's a great novel that exists in Old Sharn if only he can get there. This was like a nice hook that we had. The Orem, he's joined the Orem now. So the Orem tells him about the staff once held by his ancestors from Old Sharn. That was an idea I dropped in last time, but I don't know if I want to like pivot the whole campaign over to this exploration of Old Sharn. So I'm not sure if I'm going to use that one. I might yank that one. His star, he was the one that got impaled, and he was like, not getting impaled is a good thing, but he really liked, he's digging the whole conspiracy. He likes that. He really liked the idea of the collaborative storytelling, that more of the things that are involving the characters are changing and shifting the direction of the story. And he definitely wants more of that. That was his big wish. Joe, Banner, played by Joe, is a Warforged paladin, the Becoming God. He is now an acolyte of the Becoming God. He met other members of this new sort of god. And, you know, some other options are that meeting the Godforge in the morning might be really cool. Getting involved with the Godforge and the Lord of Blades could be a fun hook. What are stars? So I'll give me 1 second. I'll mention them again. Stars are something that you ask for after a session. You say, what is something that you really enjoyed from this session? What is a star from this session? So either something another player did, something that you did and really enjoyed for your character, or something that happened in the story. What's something that you really liked? And then a wish is like, what would you like to see in the future? So this is something you can ask like every 2 to 4 sessions, I think is probably about right. Yeah, it's a focused way of asking for feedback, right? So instead of just saying like, what'd you think of today's game? You're asking for something relatively specific. And that was a difference, kind of defining it that way. I've asked players for actually the same kind of things. What did you like in today's game? And what's something you want to see more of? I don't really get great answers, but when I use this, I did. So I don't know. There's something about defining it as a star and a wish that really helped. So Joe loved the Gorgon fight and loved the imagery and thought Shane was awesome, and that particularly that Jay, who runs Shane Husk, really went with the punch as well. Like he didn't get upset that he was getting, and he went from like the worst situation of getting one-shotted to the best situation of like rolling a 20 on a death save, getting his hit points back, and then dropping down and then hitting it and killing the Gorgon. So he really had a lot of nice swing in there. He likes having, so Joe said he really likes having lots of choices in the direction that things are going. Zarentir, played by Pat, is a Tempest Storm Cleric. He recently stole the keys to his father's airship. So that is a possibility. The Goldbright is the name of the airship. So I think stealing the Goldbright, it might definitely be a fun thing to go. He liked the Gorgon fight, but he felt bad for Shane. He likes complex decisions with minimal information. He wants to see that. He said like that's, you know, the difficulty they have is like last time. So Juliet keeps most of the notes, and when she wasn't there, like nobody knew what the hell was going on. So it's like, how do we make big choices when we have, you know, with very little amount of information that's coming back? So how to deal with that was one of the things that he wanted. So those are the characters. Those are the things that they like in the game. It's a lot. Like I got 6 players, so there's a lot kind of going on. I always think it helps to kind of go through it though and really see where we're going. So today's strong start, I was thinking about it earlier, and I think a good strong start for today. So their goal is to get into Moorgrave University, right? So we can start with the goal, right? This is like, what's the hook? Get into the forbidden section of Tower 6 and recover the Tome of Kol Sur. Yeah, so that's the main goal for it. And then, so what can happen in the strong start? And I think what we're going to have is that, I'm looking through my NPCs here. Triss, who is an ambassador, Triss, ambassador of the Dask. Hang on a sec, I got a call. And I got something in my throat. Triss, ambassador of the Dask, brings them a key, a brooch, and the brooch is the symbol of Moorgrave University in platinum. And it has it has a little bit of blood on it. Not Triss Marigold. Not Mixing Worlds. And she says, this is one of 4 key. Man, I got something in my throat again. It's right in the back of my throat. No, it's not COVID. So it's one of 4 keys that can get into the vaults. It won't be missed for a day. But how she came about it, she's not really going to say. And so this helps them get past some of the worst protections. And it also kind of ties into the fact that like they took the time of meeting with the Dask, and now the Dask is offering things up to them. like when you ally with the desk, you get some advantages. And one of the advantages, you don't have to figure out how to break into the vault yourself. You already have the key. You have to get to the vault and you have to get through the vault, but that's, you know, someone else. So I think that that will be kind of a fun, strong start. She comes in again, smiles. You know, she's got these 2 invisible stalkers that follow her around, ready to kick ass, you know, as she gets through the city, her bodyguards. And she drops off this key. I do wonder if Triss and Cavella are actually the same person, because Triss was not at the meeting and Cavella was. So I don't know. I might, you know, and being an Oni, she can shift into anything else. So who could say? So I think that that will be a fine, strong start. The big questions are, so they get the key. They decide on their approach. They get into the vaults. Now, in my other game, I don't know if I have to decide this quite yet. And I probably won't do this because I think they've already had enough Emerald Claw going on. My other group hadn't dealt a lot with the Emerald Claw, and I was stuck for a strong start for my Wednesday game. So I had an airship, an Emerald Claw hijacked airship crashed into Moorgrave University, and ghouls spilled out of it. And it meant that the vault, the way there, it suddenly gave the characters a way to get into the vault, but they also now had to deal with Emerald Claw ghoul spies who were trying to break in and take the book themselves. They managed to get through the spies, but then they found out that Valentine Flame Touched, who is the right hand of Leto Skull, was there with a bunch of Jackal-wares to also break into the vault and steal the book. I may have it, because my other group has already dealt with the Emerald Claw a lot, I may pull the Emerald Claw out and instead, maybe the Emerald Claw will try to get it afterwards. And instead, but I think having Valentine Flame Touched, who's a Lamia, and her Jackal-wares are breaking into the vault as well. So there's like 2 different angles of getting into the vault, right? And there's a whole other group that you have to face. So there's all the defenses that the vault has in play, as well as Valentine Flame Touched and her Jackal-wares breaking into the vault. So I think that that will be sort of enough of a perpendicular angle into the story to sort of make the whole situation very dynamic and interesting. This group has not met or seen Valentine Flame Touched before, so I think she will be in human form. It's one of these things where like every villain isn't anything like what they look like. So traversing the, finding the book of the, finding the book of Colseer is really the main, that's the main crux of it. And then getting out, right? And I'll probably have like the Emerald Claw. The Emerald Claw is probably going to try to get the book from the party as they try to make their way out. I think that would be, that would be an approach that they might take, because we kind of want the Emerald. They haven't dealt with the Emerald Claw recently at this point. So Emerald Claw coming in. So this is one where you have your different fronts, right? And the different fronts are Droam and the Dask, Emerald Claw, Leto Skull and his group. And I guess those are the 3, right? I don't really have another group. There's like some other tertiary groups that may come in later, As we recycle the fronts, like as fronts get kicked out, you'll bring in new fronts, and we'll see kind of how that goes. One of the other fronts might be the King's Dark Lanterns that, the Kingdom of Breland thinks that they should have all this power, not anyone else. So that could be kind of fun. So I wrote down some adventure options here, but we know where they're going. And we know that they're going to the Tower 6 of Moorgrave University, but then there's like, what are the adventure options after that? And right now it's really just get rid of the Emerald Claw after that. Although I might try to say, like, what are a couple of other, quests that open up once they have the Book of Colseer? That I'm not sure about. So now we come to what I think is always I really do believe that it's kind of the most important aspect of game prep, which are the secrets and clues. Like, what are the secrets and clues that the characters can discover in the next game? So one of them is Moorgrave. It's heavily funded by expeditions to Zendrak. Tower 6 contains many powerful and dangerous artifacts. What else? Alito Skal funded many of the expeditions. And he actually financed the building of Tower 6. Leto Skal's right hand is a Lamia known as Valentine Flame Touched. But then there's another one, Flame Touched and Flame Wind. Both come from Zendrak. So who's Flame Wind? Flame Wind is a Gynosphinx. A Gynosphinx that a Gynosphinx researcher at Moorgrave. Flame Wind sounds like a great burrito place. Yeah, very nice. And Cursed. Rescued by Leto. Probably 10 years ago. Brother of the Cursed. So when we left off, we were looking at secrets and clues, and I still have 5 secrets and clues remaining. So yeah, Flame Touch and Flame Wind, right? So Flame Wind is actually in Eberron. This is a real thing. Moorgrave University. If you go to here, there is a Flamewind, a Gynosphinx with oracular powers, came to Moorgrave University with a Zendrak expedition 2 years ago and took up residence there. So maybe it was 2 years ago. That's a nice little secret. And let's see, I said 10 somewhere in here. And I meant 2. Yeah, we're going to go with 2. So that would make sense, right? And maybe Flamewind and Flame Touch both came back from the same expedition and were brought here. But Flame Touched, who is a cursed Lamia, she's like a evoker Lamia mage. You know, she's kind of, you know, she's following Leto Skal directly, where Flame Wind went off to study what's been going on. So that can be interesting. So what sort of... there's a Dreaming Dark orb exists, is being held in the vaults of Tower 6. I want to add a little bit of Dreaming Dark stuff in here. I think that could be fun, and that Leto Skal has some kind of connection to the Dreaming Dark and to Dalcor and the Quarry. Boy, I'm learning a lot of Eberron lore running this campaign, I'll tell you. And it's all good. What other secrets? Flamewind has a band of Jackalwares. The yellow fangs. That's so cliche. Yellow claw. Ugh. I need a cool Jack-O-Ware name. Fun, fun Jack-O-Ware gang signs. Probably not flames. We'll go with the yellow teeth. The yellow teeths. The howlers. Yellow howlers. Yeah, we'll go with the howlers. That's a good one. Thank you, John 4. We'll go with that. So she has a band of Jack-O-Wares now, the howlers, that act as her spies and on behalf of Leto Skull. What else do we have? Other secrets, things that they would discover down in Zendrek or down in Moorgrave University. That's important. Leto, I already had that Leto financed the expedition and financed the construction of Tower 6. Leto wants to steal the tome, but doesn't want anyone to know it was him. I don't really know why, but I think that's kind of neat. He's stealing from his own vault, right? He's breaking into his own vault and taking his own book that he already owned, right? Why? And is he sort of, he doesn't want anybody to know he's got it. There's some other angle, maybe with the Aurum, right? The Aurum can't know what he's doing. That could be an interesting angle. That could be kind of cool. I left secrets from last week. I think I'm just going to dump those. These are all secrets that the characters learned in the last session. That Calvera wears the eye of the daughters of Sorokal of the Droam. One of the daughters is blind but a seer. Leto Skull's a member of the Dask. He's Cavela's brother. Leto Skull has gone his own way. The daughters are worried he's threatening their leadership. Leto Skull wants a weapon of terrible power. He needs the Eberron shard from Zendrek. He needs the magic harness power. He needs the location of Claw Rift. He was bankrolled by the daughters but became a Gold Ring member of the Arm, then broke contact with the Droam. The Gnolls acted on their own. Emerald Claw is trying to capture the crystal and use it to destroy Sharn. They're operating out of the City of the Dead in the old tomb of House Canneth. Cavella and the daughters want the Book of Kolsir. So does Leto. Ancient Takani goblin ruins exist beneath Old Sharn. They predate even Galifar. Galifar agents tried to investigate the ruins and failed. They have since sealed it up. Those are secrets from last week. But we're not going to worry about those. So now we just got some secrets from this one. So then we have the Moorgrave University. I have two maps that I'm using from Dyson Logos, of course, my favorite source of maps. Library itself, which has multiple levels to it. What does that say? The map of the basement and sub-basement levels of the Great Library of the Violet City. So I think these are cool maps of what Tower 6 looks like, right? I think that these work well. There's some offices and seating areas, there's places to go. So this is Tower 6 overall. And then the vaults of Tower 6 are where here? Beneath the Great Library. So then this is like some of the vaults. So these might be some of the lower offices. And I think it's this stairwell on the far left-hand side that leads down into these vaults. And this is where everything else exists. And there's secret entrances into this one as well. And I think it's through one of these secret entrances that Cavella and her, not Cavella, that Valentine and her Jack-O-Wares are using. This secret vault on the lower left, Snark Knight said, I just used this map for a Candlekeep fight. Yeah, right? Dyson, man. Versatile maps. So I think the orb is going to be kept in this room here, and I think the Jack-O-Wares will have already done it. This is something I did before. These other vaults all contain a variety of different things, so I can sort of fill that out. In fact, I have some of that from my Wednesday game, so I'll probably steal that. Let's see. I'll open up my Wednesday notes if I can find them in here. 27 May, Eberron. So, things to find in the Forbidden Vaults of Moorgrave University. We're going to grab this, and we're going to paste it into my Eberron one under Fantastic Adventures. We'll put them right there. So here are, I wrote, this is you want a dirty Sly Flourish trick. One of the dirty Sly Flourish tricks is when you're kind of hurting for inspiration, when you're trying to figure out like, man, I don't know what to do. Like, I don't know where to go, or things would get complicated. I like to make lists of 10 things, and you can just make a list of like 10 anything. So in this case, it was like 10 things to find in the Forbidden Vaults of Moorgrave University. And I like to just rip these out, and it kind of fits with the 10 secrets and clues as like a mental exercise. It kind of pushes your brain to do a lot of things quickly, and then you can sort of throw out the bad ones and pick the ones that you really like. Bloodied Spear of the Volcari Drow was one. Black Orb of the Quarry, I think I mentioned. The Stone Tablet binding the elves to the service of Kulsir is another. Glyphed Ring the size of a belt, still humming with power. Crown Skull of a Sulatar Drow White. The Journal of Macron Nightwalker, a sage who spent years with the Drow of Zendrek and recorded their folklore. A suit of chitin scale armor of the Volcari Drow. A tree of blooming black flowers that only grows underground. A half-broken arch that once allowed passage to Dalcor. A floating star map of the Sibrius crystal ring. An Umbragan Shadow Assassin's dagger that's magical and inflicts necrotic damage instead of normal damage. So these are all like kind of weird things that they might find in the vaults. And I like to just have those on hand. I don't know if they will find them. I don't know which room they'll find them in necessarily. I can sort of play around with it. But I think that that kind of stuff can work. There was a piece of treasure I wanted to drop in. Oh, I forgot. Yeah. One thing I forgot to mention is like when they get into the vault itself, and this is stuff that I used in my other game, so it's kind of why I'm not prepping it now. There is a stone golem that is guarding it, but if you show it the amulet, the stone golem will not attack. It treats you as, oh, you're supposed to be here. But the stone golem may attack others. So now the problem is Valentine also has one of these necklaces, so she can avoid the stone golem as well. Yeah, so lots of interesting things that can go on here. Yeah. Am I in the right? Yeah, my Eberron 31 May. So what else? What are some other things? I guess we can make like other, when we go to our, let's see, we finish our secrets and clues. Let's talk about fantastic locations. So we have those things. We have like a list of things, but we have a stone. Well, let's go to monsters, right? So we have things that they can find inside of here. We have NPCs, Valentine, Flame Touched, Flame Wind. There's probably, I think there is a, I thought I had somebody that was here. Librarians and stuff. I guess I won't worry too much about NPCs at Moorgrave University other than Flamewind, who I think could be very interesting and might spill some secrets. But monsters. So the monsters that are in here, there's a few that work really well. So we have a stone golem. That's the protector of the vault, but doesn't react to the necklace. But if they go foul of it, it could be bad. There's an Alep. Is an escapee from the Orb of the Dreaming Dark and is now wandering the halls. We have Jackalwares. And we have Valentine. Elamia. I'm trying to break away from like animated armors everywhere. You already had a bunch of animated armors inside Leto Skull's vault. I think it would be kind of funny if there was animated armors. We could have a Drow White, right? That could form. Maybe a Wraith. That forms, that has like the crown, the Drow crown if it's picked up. What else? Are there any other? Maybe it's a Sulatar Fire Spirit. Yeah. Make a secret trapdoor in the orb chamber leading to the passage below. Yeah, right. So there could be, or maybe it's not a secret. Maybe it breaks through. The floor kind of collapses. And there's some tunnels there. Maybe the Jackalwares break through. I guess that's okay for monsters. I don't think I need a whole lot, right? Magic items. A suit of Elven Chain wouldn't be bad. That might be the Elven Chain, the Elven Chain armor that was, I think I said it was like chitin, you know, chitin armor, but it might be a suit of Elven Chain armor with the Volkori Drow. That might be kind of cool. Or the Sulatar Drow. Yeah. So that could be a magic item worth finding. The orb, which is a crystal ball, but it only shows what it wants to show. It's got a power in it. I'm reminded of Black 13 from Dark Tower. So I think we're good there. So looking at it, all right, so we've gone through the characters. I've got my secrets and clues. I've got a strong start. I've got locations. I've got monsters. I've got NPCs. So I've got treasure. I think we have hit all of the steps. And I feel, again, I'm lucky because I've kind of run this area before, so it's a little easier for me to run it than it is normally. One thing that has occurred to me is that it's definitely harder for me to prep these sessions than it is for ones where I have a published adventure. Even if I'm heavily modifying a published adventure, I find it easier to do. And I feel more confident in it because it's still grounded in something that's like written down. And there's something about that, and I know I'm not in the majority on this. The majority of people make their own adventures, but having run now, God, I don't know, a dozen hardcover published adventures, maybe not quite a dozen, but a lot, 8 or so. Having run so many hardcover published adventures, I can definitely say that I am more comfortable running those than I am. I'm more comfortable running those than I am running my own adventures. And that is an interesting and hard thing for me to come to grips with. I think it's important that I'm running my own adventures this time. It gets me out of my comfort zone and I learn a lot. And I think that that's useful as far as, you know, offering thoughts and advice on how to run games, considering that most people do it that way. But it's been a very interesting experience. And I guess it's next week where we're going to hear what the next major storyline is for D&D. And I'm sure I will be interested in, I'm pretty sure I'm going to be interested in running that. So, but I don't know when it's coming out. Who knows when it's coming out. But I think next week is also Theros. The digital version of Theros is coming out. That'll be interesting. So we'll see. Anyway, I want to thank everybody for coming today. Thank you all for hanging out for our show. And I will, hopefully everybody is able to stay safe. And I will see everybody next week. So thank you all. Have a great week. Remember, tomorrow, 11 a.m. is the Kickstarter. If you want to help support things that are going on with Sly Flourish, please back the Kickstarter. I guarantee you will be getting an awesome book for your support. Thank you all very much. Have a great week, and I will see you next Sunday.